This topic is going to be so surreal because I did a video like this years ago. And well, here we go again. I don't like, when it comes to the term happiness, I feel like happiness is such an empty, broad term that it always just made more sense to associate that idea with just joy. As like joy is, I don't know, like the imaginary light that you receive when you are in a positive state, when you're in a contempt state, when you're in a um, just an overall positive state in general. And that's what I want to like build off of. But before we get there, for people that have watched this channel, know that I have to go through my story because you can't talk about anything unless it involves my story. So whatever. Um, 2 months after I was born, my dad got into an accident and died and came back to life. After that, when I was 4, I believe, that's when my dad left my mom. And just a speed run school, I was bullied all through elementary school. My school went from JK to all the way to grade 8. So it was hell on earth. Um, the bullying was terrible, but the worst part was just that the school didn't do anything. In grade, the transition of, I believe, the second half of grade 5 was when I went to CHIO, and they were going to like there it was about like my learning disability, and right from there I was diagnosed with PTSD. And from there, there's been some more developments, but I'll talk when that gets important. After that, in terms of like just everybody knows, like, for people that know people that have been bullied for a long time, like all through their childhood, or just people that have experienced it, it sucks. It's a feeling that you feel like you're constantly, well, you are a target. I was a target, you are a target. You're in a very dark and closed space, and like, unless you have a support system or have friends, it's really hard to not think negatively about really anything. It was that experience that made me fed up with authority, just for the sake of they weren't doing anything. And any time that I got in trouble, it was just not a there was no justified reason for me to be in trouble. Um, and I talk with my parents, I talk with other adults about this, and they everybody was agreeing that the school was doing nothing about it. And there's the other side was like, well, they should have done something about the bullying, but like, really, at the end of the day, it was like we got to the point where on my last principal, the principal just wanted me out of the school. He was trying to find any way that I could get expelled just by literally getting bullied and defending myself. Um, and yeah, that was basically school. After that, it was a weird transition period into high school where I did actually end up finding a new friend. And uh, I don't, the best way to describe it was like, it was like a typical friendship. There was no, even though, like, I got introduced to friends of his and whatnot, I couldn't say that exactly that outside of that friend, I wouldn't say that I exactly had a support system just yet at that time. But once he left the next year, because he moved schools, that's when I felt that it was really tough. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the PTSD or what, but there was some sort of weird feeling that even though like I had positive interactions with people and no one was doing anything about it, there was just this weird feeling that, I felt like an outcast, even though I pretty much talked with everybody. I felt like no one liked me, even though that was definitely far from the truth. And I just kept having more feelings that, it's just like, I need to, or these people are, probably going to, abandon me within a short period of time. And that stuff never happened. But eventually that just turned into depression. I guess it was anxiety. But yeah, just social anxiety ended up turning into depression, leading to a dark place where I didn't want to be here anymore. And my way of what I did when I was in that state, despite not, I didn't trust anybody with that information at the time, that I had no choice but to go to someone that I didn't even know, but somehow I still felt like they would be understanding, and they got me help, and that kind of added more to the fire of just more personal struggles that I dealt with, and becoming more of a personal problem moving forward, because I felt so guilty that I went to this person, that it became like it's its own issue, like, and in certain times, just talking about bullying, at the time, while I was very open to discussing it with people, even there's just some people that would hear about it already was like they were still friends with, the person that bullied me in elementary school, and it was just like I didn't there were some people that understood, but for the most part it just felt like I might as well save my breath because no one cares. Um, so to go into this new thing where it's like, oh yeah, I traumatized someone by telling them that I was going to end it. Um, there was more of a care of that. People cared more for the fact that, like I was in danger, and that was like a huge wake up call. And I started to develop this new mindset where it's like there are, like, now I understand people do care. If it wasn't for that one person just telling other people that story, everybody cares. Um, and this new mindset that I've developed is basically just that I I have a reason to live. There's nothing that's keeping me from continuing my. I switched up careers so many times. Um, and just even in high school in general, I think I switched careers about 4 times. It was mechanic, then it was construction, and then at the end of the day, it was like, no, I want to help people, because going through that struggle, it just it made sense to want to help other people that struggled with those issues, whether it be bullying, just just struggling with their mental health in general. That's what I wanted to do. So got in my field of work, um, or went to college for the social service work, and just when I thought that everything was fine, um, to go through all of that, uh, I wish it would have just ended there, but it didn't. So I was basically ready to start a new chapter in my life. My first year of college was digital. And then in my preparing for my second year, I volunteered for open houses. I volunteered for orientation. I got acquainted with people that would eventually become my new support group for college, as well as just my overall friend group in general, um, that it made things a lot easier to discuss, issues, how I'm feeling. There's always checking in, and that's just something that I never got from, high school. I didn't get that in elementary school. That it was a very new thing for me. But and I sure, a lot of people probably relate to this part specifically, when you get so comfortable with, people in a class or a program specifically centered around like mental health, helping people in general. Everybody gets comfortable and, shares their stories. But the thing that I should have thought about, actually no, it's not my fault. I'm not going to pretend like it was my fault for even thinking, oh, I should have read the room and should have considered the fact of what I was sharing. But in one of our classes in the second semester, it was a counseling class preparing you for, if you want to be a counselor, you're learning all the stuff to do with counseling. And in that class specifically, there's a lot of demonstrations. And I loved how my professor, would do stuff, and the demonstrations helped a lot for the actual group work afterwards, and just the stuff that I learned in that class. It helped a lot to witness it in front of me. And another thing that I wanted to do was, I wanted to be more active in the class, as I was also being told by, my friend group, like, encouraged to do that. And I remember the day that I felt finally comfortable to share the story of what happened in high school. Considering that no one in my friend group support system, no one in the class, even though there was the one instance, there was one person, and they're still one of my best friends to this day, that I told them beforehand that, I trust you. I feel like at some point, but like, there's just something that I need to tell you, because like I feel like I have to tell everybody that, I'm starting to get close with, and I'm starting to feel safe around. And it was about this specifically. But at the end of the day, I just like, you know what, I'll do it. So I told that story in class. Everything went fine, and wasn't until maybe 2 weeks later, I think, did the damage my professor, so for that one specifically, one of my friends, or my best friend actually, was playing the role of the counselor. I was playing the role of the client when I told that story. And the 2 weeks later, my professor is playing the role of the counselor, doing a follow-up while I'm still the client. At that time, the only thing that I discussed was like basically issues with a person that I was seeing at the time. And he said a lot of stuff within this demonstration that, if it was recorded, could really fuck up your self-esteem. And someone recorded the whole thing. And I was just there. It was a weird period of time because I didn't necessarily know how to feel, because I was already like, I was already struggling with, like, I think we had a test that same week. Everybody was struggling, and then just to get an email after and told by my professor, like, confidentiality was broken. I was like, oh, okay. I want to know about this. My friends and I were playing it safe, but then, like, worst case scenario, someone heard someone saying something outside of the room. That was that was not the case. They recorded the whole thing. posted on Snapchat. Over 20 people saw it. People within our program, I don't know how the portion of it exactly, but there was a small majority that saw it, reported it to the professor, but no one wanted to tell me about it. No one wanted to tell um no one wanted to tell me about it. So this whole situation went unnoticed for like 2 weeks. Um, and when I found out about it, telling people, everybody was fucking pissed. For the people that didn't know, they were so mad that at the end of the day, when I had this discussion with my professor, the worst part about it was that the person didn't get kicked from the program because it wasn't a targeted attack. They just did it and didn't care. That's that's in the dean's eyes. That's not a valid enough reason to kick them out of the program, which is complete bullshit. Um, and they were not punished. And to this day, they don't use their social service degree. They're working construction, making probably more money than me, and got away with it. And with this whole thing, it was about, I'm going to say, a 2-year grieving process of just, after everything that I shared in that class, to have someone know to have someone record that personal information, post it online, but more specifically, just don't care at all. It makes so much sense why they didn't proceed that same field of work, because they just didn't care. The worst case scenario is actually, this isn't the first time this happened in the program. This happened about 5 different times in different years, from what I've been told. And yeah, the college just does not care. And I made a song about that. It's the It's Hard to Move On song from my project, and it's one of those songs that I'm always going to be fond about, because it accurately represents how I feel about the situation and how my feelings will never change about that situation. So after the grieving process, the big thing that helped me a lot was that I actually got a job. I did work one summer job being a facilitator, or I get for a program with adults with mental disabilities. But the job that I really wanted was to work with kids. And I've been thinking about like where exactly, but at the end of the day, I ended up picking a job that I absolutely love, and there's just nothing like that job. So going into these new years where there's no more education system, don't have to deal with that like just nonsense of bullying or whatever, and accurately just getting my life straight. A lot of things I did in that time. The biggest thing that I've come to a realization with specifically is that a support system is so important. It is so important that you have people to talk to whenever you feel lost, whenever you feel sad, whenever you just feel trapped in general. It's always good to have a support system. If you don't have a support system, I mean, there's plenty of resources to look for. But after that, I also realized that really, actually, within all my time of struggling, the number one thing that has been with me, even when there hasn't been a support system, is music. And the important thing that to take away from, all these struggles and whatever is if you don't have a support system, the next thing that you also need you should focus on is stuff that you like to do, stuff that means the world to you, and for me that's music. So within this time, struggling with high school, I came up with my first music project, Turtle Pond. I came out with an album that was that covered my struggles pretty much briefly, like within this video, like the elementary school as well as high school. And then I came out with another project that was more just trying to understand myself and accepting, just bad things that have happened to me. And then there was my third project that was centered around me just dealing with the fact that my grandfather has cancer. And in this time, if I'm not making music, I'm listening to music. And more specifically, I'm listening to music that I relate to. I'm listening to music that makes me feel understood. And more specifically, just music that makes me feel like life's worth living. At the end of the day, within all of this, I just want to say that, like, that's pretty much it. You know, it's you go through these things, and then they don't matter afterwards. In my time, like I will occasionally have, like, seasonal depression or whatever. But when that happens, I have music or I have a support system, and you just you go to those things and you just feel better. The idea of finding joy for me is very simple. I get to be around the things that I love, and that's it, pretty much. Like, there's a lot of discussions about what makes or what the things that bring you joy, like the stuff that's tangible, the stuff that's there forever, or the stuff that disappears. Like, I'm not a materialistic person, and it's weird saying this because, like, I do understand, like, with physical media and all that, I understand the importance of it. But I think about it at the end of the day, it's like, what would I be more upset about? Losing someone that I love, or losing a thing that I can already buy again, And when you come to that realization, specifically, I feel some people might have that realization when they think they're going to die. And that was actually another thing. I came to that realization specifically whenever I felt like I was going to die. That everything else just doesn't matter. The problems that were in the past don't matter. The things you lose don't matter. The time that you spent on Earth making people feel welcomed, and more specifically, just brightening people's days in general. That's the stuff that matters. When you leave Earth, you want to leave Earth with knowing that you made a difference in some way, shape, or form. And everything else just does not matter. That's my realization. And hopefully everybody else understands that. I think that's it. I think that's the video. Peace.